LLM is a large language model. So basically what happened was, if we just take a look, let's give a 5-minute run through a history of an LLM. So it actually goes back way to the beginning of the 1900s. There were two Russian guys that had a little bit of a feud, and they were both mathematicians. And the one guy wanted to prove it all had to do with a lot of different theory and causality and all sorts of things. So he basically went and created a mathematical model that just looks at text. So he took a really famous Russian poem and he extrapolated the text out of that poem. If I remember correctly, the poem was called Alexander Pushkin, if I remember correctly. But what he did was he went through that poem and then he said, you have two types of characters. You have a consonant and you have a vowel. And all he wanted to do was to prove, and create a mathematical model of predicting what letter is going to come next every single time. And that history is actually quite interesting. And if you go to YouTube, there's actually quite a couple of good videos on that can sort of show you what the history is behind it. But the mathematician's name was Markov, and he created something called a Markov chain that literally predicts the next character coming. And these Markov chains was actually a revolution in terms of mathematics. And over the years, it's been used in so many different things, including when they built the first atomic bomb in terms of predicting how the atoms would actually react. But Google started using this a little bit later on. So what made Google a little bit different to Yahoo was the fact that they actually predicted how web pages would link to one another, and they would use that. And they actually used Markov chains in their mathematical prediction for that. And then later on, they used those same Markov chains for two different things. The first one was, remember when Google first started, when you start typing a search term, it would pop up with a bunch of, is this what you're trying to search for? That was all using Markov chains back in that day. So they then said, we can apply this even further. And if you look at the word ChatGPT, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And Google wrote a paper in 2017 all about this transformer technology. And they were sitting on top of this technology that has become the AI that we have today. And it was all about that transformer part. So it's about transforming text. So generative means that it will generate text for you. So it used these Markov chains that was used to predict what's coming next. They started predicting what word should come next. But what made the LLMs a little bit different to the regular prediction, like what we first had in Google was just predicting. It said, these are the famous search terms. It would rank them, and then it would say, from what you've typed, this is what should come next. But if it lacked context, so and this is one thing that makes the large language models a little bit different to the text prediction that they had in that day, is the large language models looks at the context of whatever it is that you're dealing with. Let's say, for instance, you use the word scale. If I use the word scale in a sentence, I could be talking about business strategy because we want to scale our operations globally. I could be talking about a music scale. So if I'm talking about music, I could be talking about the different scales that you have. And in a data science course, if I said something like the scale of the data, I could be talking about normalizing or standardizing data or something like that. So the LLM is aware of the context in which you are actually talking, and it does that in various different ways, which is beyond what we're talking about today. But that's where the revolution came, and what brought us into the rise of LLMs, and that was the next phase in AI above the machine learning.